A lot of key veteran players with recognizable names gone. De'Von Achane's still there. There's been some reporting. There's been some discussion. Is he available? Is he not available? He's in the last year of his contract. Where do things stand? If there's a fan out there that's got his or her De'Von Achane jersey and wants to know, am I going to be wearing it this year? What would you say to them?
Yeah, it's important to us to get a deal done with De'Von. He is a difference maker as a player. We are in talks. We're trying to get that done. It's a priority to us. He is a building block for us as we move forward.
What about him makes you believe that?
I think he's a rare player. His feet, his acceleration, his ability to play on all three downs. He's a very good pass catcher. He reminds me a lot of a guy that I played with in high school by the name of Warwick Dunn, who went on to have a marvelous career. Maybe it's
look at you, Mr. Louisiana.
Maybe it's the 28 that he wears on his back, which wore forever. And but I see a lot of similarities now. Now Warwick did it for a decade, and neither one of them are big guys. So that I think if De'Von was sitting here, he'd be the one to tell you. Like, I think that's going to be the question for him. Can he be as durable as Warwick was over time? But he's a marvelous player. We want to move forward with him. It's important to us to get a deal done. He's part of the future for us.
We go to Miami.
Sure.
The first big order of business is the quarterback position.
Sure.
Oh, ding, ding, ding. We have a backup quarterback at the place I just came from. So, like, I'm just interested in, like, how quickly you get the job where you and Jeff, like, all right, let's sign Malik now. Like, how quickly did you come to that determination?
You know what? I mean, I'd be lying if I said we hadn't talked about it along the way. Yeah. Both of us are huge fans of the person, Malik Willis. Phenomenal guy, very even keel.
Yeah.
Thought he could handle the ups and the downs. And then obviously the skill set. We feel like he's an ascending player, extremely athletic, got an elite arm, can attack all three levels of the field.
Totally.
And he's the right kind of guy. He's the right kind of teammate. So quite frankly, it was a fairly easy decision. We didn't know if we'd be able to get him or not. Obviously, you're competing with other teams. It worked out. We're excited to have him. Malik knows he's got to come in and compete. We're in a situation in Miami. Nothing's going to be given to anybody. I don't care what your salary is. I don't care what you – now, look, somebody's got to run out with the first team day one.
Yeah,
Malik's going to be that guy.
Yeah, right.
And I would be lying if I said otherwise. The expectations for Malik are high. From Half and I and everybody else. But at the end of the day, just really excited to get him into place. I think he's going to be a great asset to our team.
Dolphins General Manager Jon-Eric Sullivan with Mike Florio and Chris Sims. We're going to head out to the Toyota of Hollywood hotline. Shop over 2,000 Toyotas on sale at one location. Toyota of Hollywood on 441 between Hollywood and Sheridan. ToyotaofHollywood.com, Joe.
All right. We've got some other news, Woody, as well. Kyle Krabs, host of Locked On Fins and NFL analyst for A to Z Sports, joins us. Kyle, good morning. I got to tell you, man, I thought Jon-Eric Sullivan was really good considering everything he's had to go through over the last couple weeks and getting ready for the draft. I thought he handled everything really well. What'd you think about yesterday, his comments, especially about his new quarterback and still here, De'Von Achane?
Yeah, I think I listened to the whole Pro Football Talk interview with Sully last night, and I was driving home from dropping the kids off at preschool, and I put it back on. Had to listen to it again because I enjoyed hearing the insight. Right, so he's certainly, there's a big picture element of kind of how they're going about their business, and I think it's really impressive that everything that he talked about back in January when he got the job, like, you can kind of go down the list and see like there's been tangible follow through on a lot of those talking points. And Achane's a great example of talked about him being one of the building blocks of the roster. And now we're at the point where they're having some conversations and they're prioritizing it, and it's important for them. And I do kind of think, especially since they did some gymnastics with his contract to get a little bit of salary cap wiggle room, I think that only makes it that much more likely that he will be here, because he's already got $4.6 million of his compensation that he was scheduled to get. They paid out. And you know, as a team that's trying to be cash conscious this season so that they don't have to defer things into future years as much as possible, if they wrote the check, I think that tells you a lot about how serious they are with these talking points with De'Von Achane.
Yeah, that was good to hear, because, you know, a lot of people are going, oh, he's trying to drive the price up to get a higher draft pick, and come on, they're not done, and all those type of things. So I want to ask you, going forward, Malik Willis, a lot of talk obviously up there about Malik, and I do agree with what his former head coach had to say, man. He's got a chance to be a really successful guy, successful starter, but he needs some guys around him. And that kind of leads me into your 7-round mock draft. I was hoping you go wide receiver higher.
Was where I put him in the 7-rounder that I did for A to Z Sports yesterday. But no, it's kind of, again, taking a talking point at face value. And they've talked about, wanting to win the line of scrimmage. And they've talked about wanting to be able to run the football. So, I went with Spencer Fano as an offensive lineman, plays right tackle for Utah, can play inside short term and then kick out the right tackle long term. I also really like the Penn State guard if you were going to go with a straight up guard player in the first round. But the pass rush, you need help on the pass rush.
Yes.
You need help on the offensive line. You need help in the secondary at corner and safety. And so it's just Rome's not built in a day, right? So I think that's the hardest thing for me. And when I look at the wide receiver class that's out there this year, it is a deep group where I do think you have a chance to get meaningful players, even if you're not getting a 140 target guy for your wide receiver room. I think you can get those guys when Miami has those picks at 75 through 94.
If Maui Noah drops to 11, I think you're going to tell me it's not going to happen, and Fano's there, which guy do you like better to be that guard tackle, maybe even a little center after being out of said Maui Noah has played all three of them a lot in practice, which I didn't realize. But which guy you like more?
I like Maui Noah better. He's my top-rated tackle in this year's class. I think Fano would probably be a better center, where I think the displacement ability that Maui Noah has in the run game, kind of the anchor. I think he's got a heavier anchor to be able to drop on guys when they try to take him down the middle off the edge. So I think if you're telling me all things equal, they're both playing center, I'll take Fano. If it's guard or tackle, I would take Maui Noah.
Yeah. Is there any chance Maui Noah drops to 11? And I know it's all over the place right now in this whole draft, but I'm just curious, is there any shot something comes out negative about him so he drops?
Yeah, I don't know. We saw what happened with Laramie Tunsil. I don't think that's coming for Maui Noah, but I would say the pathway for a drop is if the Cardinals at 3, because I think they're a big tackle spot. It's too early for the non-Fernando Mendoza quarterbacks. I think they've got a big need there. They have one tackle in Paris Johnson, but the rest of the right side of the offensive line is kind of shaky. If they like Fano more than Maui Noah, or if they don't go offensive tackle, and then the Browns kind of go, whether it's wide receiver or there's some buzz that they really like Caden Proctor, who's a left tackle out of Alabama, and they've got the other 4 spots they replaced from last year's team on the offensive line already, so left tackle is kind of their last spot. Like if they go Monroe Freeling, who's a left tackle from Georgia, or if they go Caden Proctor, that's the recipe for how Maui Noah makes it to you. I wouldn't bet on it happening, but I do see the pathway for that being something that could possibly come to life.
Hey, Kyle, this Ty Simpson thing, it's gotten personal now. It's all over the place. And I thought all the ESPN guys were kind of are jumping on the same bandwagon. I see Matt Miller goes, I think he's a early 2nd round pick. I don't think he goes in the 1st round pick. And it's just been Dan Orlovsky, of course, kind of started with, I think he's clearly the number 1 quarterback in the draft. And that got it all stirred up. And
yep.
What's your – it's, by the way, just adds to the whole first round of this NFL draft on the 23rd of next month here. But what do you think of Ty Simpson?
I like Ty for what he is. And what he is a 1-year starter who was given a lot of responsibility at the line of scrimmage. They ran a lot of pro concepts. If you're telling me somebody who's going to get up under center and run a bunch of play action passing and turn his back to the defense and your offense is working and humming, I could see Ty being a guy that can be efficient and keep your offense on schedule. He's got a little something to him as far as some off-schedule stuff, but he doesn't really have the ability to drive the ball downfield. He's not a particularly big guy. So I think you would classify him probably as a lower physical tools ceiling player. And then with the 1 year of starting experience, you see if he doesn't have the answer right at the snap of the ball, there's a lot of negative plays that kind of pop up, and you would expect that to get better with more reps. So I think if you said his tape was more immediately translatable to the NFL than what Fernando Mendoza's was at Indiana, I could get behind your argument there. But again, just the physical tools and the upside, I think Mendoza's got him by a good amount. And I think in the NFL, you've got to be a guy, if you want to have that top tier player at the position, you're going to have to be able to carry a little bit more weight on your shoulders than what I think Ty Simpson's capable of. Not to say you can't win without it, or not to say you can't win with him, but I think Mendoza's got that extra gear too.
Hey, so the Dontavion Wicks, a fourth receiver for the Green Bay Packers, some people are talking about him at 30 catches as a number 4 guy last year, 24-year-old, fourth-year guy. Obviously, our guys like the Green Bay Packer way. You think that's somebody they're interested in adding to be a top 3 receiver here in Miami?
I think they should absolutely have interest if the Packers are kind of entertaining potentially moving on. He's been a pretty consistent producer without having a lot of volume. He's had less than 60 targets in 2 of his first 3 seasons in the NFL, and Green Bay just went out and they drafted Matthew Golden in the first round pick last year.
Right.
So contract year guy. He's big, he's physical, he's not the most twitchy or dynamic, but he's got great ball skills. He's a tough player. He's a blue-collar player that's accustomed to playing in an offense that spreads the ball around. I think he's obviously, with the vision that you would expect a couple of guys that have come from Green Bay, like he's got the DNA of a lot of things that I think are relevant to him. I think the challenge is contract year. What's that compensation look like? Is that giving a day 3 pick straight up? Is that a part of a pick swap back and forth where maybe you slide down in the draft at the expense of one of your top 100 picks, or that pick at 130? And do you go down into the late 5th round where I think the Packers have a pick? So there's a couple different ways that they can get that done, but I'm sure Green Bay is not going to cut you any favors. So, if you're going to trade for a young 24-year-old wide receiver, you're probably not going to be getting them for next to nothing. Like I would expect that to be, you'd feel that compensation a little bit. So I think maybe that comes out to, how do the first 2 days of the NFL draft shake out, where maybe you don't take a wide receiver till 87, and then you get into Saturday and you say, hey, let's move back 25 spots in the 4th round and get Wicks to be the second wide receiver that we add.
Yeah. Hey, I tell you one thing I do like is in the first 2 days of the draft and those top 90-something picks, you have us taking 2 edge rushers, which I'm with you, man. If there's some guys I see at 75 and 94, you like edge rushers. So you think that's pretty deep position?
I think it is a deep position. Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting, unique skill sets in that group. Where I think they'll have a decent chance to have a high volume snap taker there at 43, whether that's Zion Young, who I think they're having in for a 30 visit. Gabe Akis from Illinois, I think, is in that conversation. At 30, it would be like TJ Parker, who, if he makes it to that spot, probably put Akeem Mesidor in that bucket as well at 30. And then you get into the day 2 guys, and Derek Moore from Michigan, Kieron Crawford, who I have going in the mock draft, who I really like out of Auburn. He's kind of the quote-unquote other Auburn guy, but he's pretty interesting in what he does from 2-point stance, and he can play out in wide alignments and kind of do some of your if you do simulated pressures and you want a guy to play like a flat, right? Like he did that at Auburn a little bit so that they could bring somebody else from elsewhere in the defense and not compromise your zone spacing. So they're going to have options on the edge, and I think they should absolutely be looking for a couple different skill sets to go with the guys that they have in that room now.
The whole thing just very interesting. I think overall, the way our general managers handled what has been obviously not the best situation. Look, you don't get these jobs unless it's a disaster where you are or bad. But this thing with the money, how are your thoughts? I really haven't asked you about the dead money and how it's been. How you think they've handled it with so much going to the cemetery in the first year?
Yeah, I think it's outside of norms, right? Where you're at $180 million in dead cap. It's over 60% of the cap this year. So I'll be interested to see how they balance that out with their free agency strategy and approach, which Jon-Eric Sullivan's talked about. We'll hunt difference makers in free agency, but we're not going to be spending just to spend and look busy, right? We're going to target guys we think can be difference makers because that's the only way that it's worth it in free agency. So, Miami, they have spent historically in free agency a lot. So you'll probably get a big name, and that can happen as fast as next year now because they did this with their prior debts where you were so aggressive. Well, right now they're sitting at like $140 million in cap space for 2027. Now you're going to have to add the rookie class from this year onto that.
Right.
You're going to have to add on extensions, presumably for Achane, Brewer, and Brooks, and you're probably still going to have 9 figures in cap space in 2027 to work with as a starting point. So
yeah,
that's why you do it, right? So that you could take your medicine this year. Sully, he said in that same interview with Mike Florio, we got a bunch of guys in here on 1-year contracts chasing carrots. A bunch of guys that are motivated. We'll see which one of those guys sees that opportunity, and then we're going to have a lot of resources moving forward to work with.
Last question for you. This is kind of out there. Not really any rotation here, but Markeel Bell. We stood next to him at the first practice the other day. That's a big man. Where do you have him going as a tackle in this draft? It decided kind of last second. Wasn't sure if he's going to get another year of eligibility or not, so just decided not to fight it and turn pro.
Yeah, I think there's a couple examples of guys that are in that height stratosphere where if you're built that way, there's kind of a certain floor. You're going to get drafted no matter what, just based on the size. I think about Trenton Brown from Florida, and I think about Zach Banner from USC. Both of those guys were kind of similarly statured players. I think Markeel Bell's probably closer to Banner, who was, I think, an early 4th round pick, like 125-ish. Like that would be about the range for me for Markeel, just because there's going to be conversations about his ability to take the right angles and have the foot speed to play in space. You get a lot of wiggle room when you're a certain size that he is, and the gravitational pull that comes with that playing on the edge. But he might not be a for everyone scheme fit because of how big he is and because of what that might compromise for your ability to mirror in space, right? Yeah. You have to be really consistent with your technique. So I expect Markeel to be an early day 3 pick somewhere in the 4th round is kind of my baseline expectation.
Right, that's fair. Kyle, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. A lot of stuff going on. Good stuff coming out of our general manager and out at the owners' meetings. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Right on, Joe.
All right, Kyle Crabbs, host of Locked On Fins and NFL analyst for A to Z Sports. And right now,